Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my photo editing live stream where you can submit your images before the stream starts and I edit them here for you live using DxO Photolab. I'm on 9.4.0 and I have the latest NVIDIA drivers on my Windows PC. And the idea here today is to basically show you the workflow that I use to edit images and demonstrate some of the tools that I use to edit them to help you better edit your own photos using Photolab 8. So it's sort of just watching over my shoulder how I use the tools. And every 2 or 3 images, I like to stop and answer any questions you might have in the chat section about any of the tools that I'm using or reasons I did some editing. And as always, this is in no way of a critique or judgment of your photos. It's just simply I edit them the way I would if they were my very own. So everything is subjective, and with respect to that, there's no right or wrong. Like I said, it's primarily here for a more pragmatic approach to the editing and not so much about, determining if a photo is good or not. So all that said, it's good to see everybody. I see Hennings here and Bamsam and Robert. Good to see you. Robert, I missed your photo last week, but I did save it to edit this week. Some sort of landscape photo. So good to see you. And Glenn, I emailed you this morning about something. I can't remember. You emailed me something, but I did reply this morning. Sorry, it took me a couple days. And let's see, John Follows, always good to see you. And wow, it's 34 degrees in South Africa. I assume that's Celsius. That's pretty nice. We're going to get down to single digits in Fahrenheit here tonight and tomorrow and this weekend. And then we'll be back up into the 40s. Thank God. But we're well below 0 Celsius at this point. So it's really cold in my house. And Paul, good to see you. And let's see, Dan and Peter, this side towards green, intrigue. All right, so audio video is good. And Heather, good to see you, and Larry. So with introductions out of the way, let me move my screens around and pull up. Everything seems to be working today. And Robert, it just so happens yours came up first today, so I will do that first. So again, when I look at a photo, the first thing I look at is the overall exposure, white balance, and composition. So exposure is fine, white balance looks fine, it's an outdoor shot, and composition looks really good. It feels a little bit tall. I may go to a 16:9, but then again, I might think about a vertical as well. But I don't have to straighten any horizons or do any perspective corrections. So, it's not like an architectural shot or street shot. So that looks good. And then whenever I do landscapes, my thought process is to sort of maintain the overall ambiance of the scene. In this scene in particular, it's kind of hazy here in the background, and I try not to lose that because you can easily add some, what do they call it, clear view to minimize fog and haze. But I might do a little bit to the sky or just add a tiny bit of contrast. But I don't want to lose that feeling because that does give a nice perspective or depth to the image. And then I always try to identify the subject here. It's kind of a mix. I don't know if these elk or whatever these things are down here, rams, would be, or mountain goats, but anyway, are really the subject or just sort of an accent to the picture. So there's always multiple items that I think about, like what accents the image overall and what is the subject. And I think here the subject is really about the geometry of the landscape. So I need to try to create some balance or emphasize certain aspects of that, and then use these animals here in the foreground as just to kind of give some scale. I mean, there's some nice evergreens here as well. And then some little bit of snow here and there. So I think, let me try a couple of different compositions. But okay, so that's my thought process. The first thing I do for editing is I always apply basic preset, which is primarily just optical corrections from DxO, their signature technology, and then the denoising, which is their other signature tech that they have in Photolab. So I have that set here. I have a default that I made that has a couple other tweaks to it, but that's primarily what it does. And you must have been using, yeah, the 12 to 100, a little bit of distortion on the wide end. So let me see. I think, let me just go to 16 by 9 and see if I can divide the scene a little bit this way. And then the other option is, if we do 4 by 3, maybe do a vertical. So I like this vertical, because now these animals aren't so minuscule. They accent, you know, they're a bigger part of the image now. And I think we have a nice division, but I'm just trying to divide this into thirds. So we have foreground, midground, and background in the sky. So I feel like I can go up a little higher. Maybe a little bit tighter. So now the mountains look a lot taller, and then I'm always conscious of my corners. So I watch this corner here to try to make sure that the mountain kind of draws draws into the frame. So it feels a little bit heavy on the left side though. So balance is another thing I like to think about. So this balance is better, but then there's too much foreground. Let me try a little tighter crop. Okay, I think that works best. So I lost a little bit in the corner, but it balances better overall, I feel like. So I'm going to emphasize these three so they stand out a little more. And I'll just drop a control point on them. Actually, I could probably use the AI. So we'll give that a second. I just started the machine. So we'll just select those three. Oh, hold on. Let me make that a single mask. So what I'm going to do is I'm using the pointer tool for the AI. And I'm just going to highlight this. And I'm going to add in there. And then I'm going to highlight this guy. And I'm holding the Shift key while I'm clicking on my mouse. So you'll see that I created the mask here, and these are sub-masks, but these are all masks within the one mask. So we have 4 sub-masks inside this one. So now any changes I make on the sliders will affect all 3 at the same time. Okay, so let's just push the shadows a bit. midtones and highlights. And then I'm going to add a little bit of warmth just to kind of set them off a little bit more. And whenever I add light, like I did here with the sliders, I always add a little bit of warmth because light is generally warm. And let's just give them a little vibrancy just so they stand out even more. Okay, and the sliders here on the selective tones, I like to make sure that they're in a straight line. That looks the most natural, because if I don't do a straight line, then you get more dramatic effects and it starts to look a little more surreal rather than realistic. So I think that's a good balance there. Now, if I'm trying to be creative, I might make some more dramatic adjustments to the sliders. But for now, that's good. Now, this water puddle is a little bit distracting. So I'm going to try and minimize this by making it darker. So let's make a new mask. And maybe just the AI tool again. And just select the water. And I'm going to hold the Shift key down. Like this. Okay, so I've created another 5 submasks under that one mask. I'm just going to darken those. I'll pull the highlights a bit. Okay, that helps. Now it's not too bad. These rocks are a little bit hot, so I'm just going to go to control points and just sort of darken this area here. I'm going to put the control point on one of the brighter parts. So now it's just masking mostly the bright areas. I'm just going to temper that a bit like that. Same thing down here. And so long as I don't click submask or add a new mask, anytime I click the control point, it's going to duplicate, whatever settings I had with the first one. So like if I put one there, you can see it just makes it darker. And maybe this spot here, I'll make that a little smaller. Okay. All right, good. Now the light it's coming straight down. This is like midday. So but it is coming a little bit from the right. So what I'm going to do is try to wow. Yeah, I'm looking at the shadows. So I'm going to just try to accentuate the lighting so it looks a little more directional. Maybe if I do a control point or a control line, that could be problematic. Maybe I'll just use a brush. Because I can see it, but I think a tool would have a hard time selecting it in a way that looks natural. So, okay, I've selected the brush, and I'm going to just put the flow at 20%. That way I can gradually add more or less as I want. I'm just going to add some light in here. Okay, so let me see what that looks like. So I'll start with the highlights and then push the midtones and then bring in the shadows a bit. Maybe just a little bit of a linear push and then add some warmth. Okay. I'm just going to do a quick yeah. Okay, I like that. All right, so let's just do a little bit more here. Okay, and then let's do a bigger one. I'm going to turn the flow down to 10. And just add a little bit there. One more. And let's just add a little bit there. A little bit smaller. Just add. Okay. So I'm adding contrast without really affecting the kind of the depth that we're getting from the haze by just brightening up just a couple of spots. Okay, that's a little bit much. So I'm going to hit the Alt key and just brush that off a little bit. So 10% is a bit much, so I'm going to drop the opacity as well. Just get a touch in. Okay. And then maybe I'll darken this side a little bit. So let me make a new mask. And this time I'm going to brush in just a little bit of shade. Here. Okay. So let's just pull it back. That's too much. Let's try it this way. Okay, right there. A little bit smaller here. A little more there. Because there's a little bit of a hill right here. And I just want that to show more. And I want to minimize this area. Okay, last thing I'll do is maybe the sky a little bit. So I'm going to use a control line. Make a new mask. I'm going to tighten up the luma just a bit. And let's just pull the highlights a little bit. Maybe a touch of clear view there. And some micro contrast. Maybe even a little bit of saturation. Let me back that off. Okay, and then one last thing I'll do is I'm going to add a little bit of contrast just down in here. And then I'll be done. So I'll use a brush again. Very soft flow. Right there. Let's try micro contrast. Okay, and a little bit of vibrancy maybe. All right, I'm done. So let's export that. Let me change some of my settings. I was doing some other things here. So I'm going to export JPEG 100%. I'm going to add a little DxO suffix to know that I edit this. And then turn off resizing and export as sRGB. And then to the same folder. Okay. All right, very good. And once that exports, you can check the progress down here. The first image I always edit, and this is, I think, the first image I've edited since I reboot the computer. It's always a little bit slow. I don't know if the hard drives are spinning up or whatever, but once I do the first one, after that, it usually takes between 5 to 15 seconds on average per image, depending on how much masking and things that I do. Okay, so let's reset this, and then I'm going to compare this image, the original, to the one I just created, the export or the output. So to do that, I can do use image as reference. So now I can compare this image against any other image. But in this case, I'm going to compare it against my edit. And I'm going to hit the F9 key to, slide the panels out of the way. And there you have it. So very subtle change, right? Vertical crop and a little bit of color and shading. Maybe a slider might make the differences a little more obvious. Like right in here, you can see just adding micro contrast just brought in some of the finer details. And then particularly the water in the foreground is now less dominant in the frame. Okay, that's my final edit. And I like the composition of the vertical. I don't know, what do you guys think? All right, let's go to the next one. This one is from John, and I'm going to hit the F9 key to bring the side panels back in. We'll customize this one. And oops, let's apply my basic preset. And oh, I've seen this this church before. I think this is a church. Okay, the sky looks like there's a little bit of detail maybe in here, but I'm going to try and bring back some of the sky. The exposure otherwise is very good, except just for the sky. So and I like these two cars right here. I think they really complement each other in the corner. And of course, the door is always good, but this is not really an entrance, is it? It's kind of blocked off. It's more like a balcony. But look, maybe they took the steps out. I like this left side the most. This side, since this is not really the entrance, I don't really need this side of the building. And architecturally, there's a little bit going on here, but it's, gosh, look at all this stuff in the inside. I wonder what's going on in there. But yeah, this side is more interesting to me because of these two cars. And then we have a nice paved or driveway and sidewalk leading into these frames. And then we have the clock. So I'm gonna crop again, pretty heavy on the left side. So we'll stay with the 4x3. Maybe go, I don't have any corners I can work with really. Maybe that one. But I'm kind of losing, let me see. Let me do a perspective correction. And then I need a little bit of a tilt. A little bit more. Just looking at this light post. The light post might be crooked, but it's kind of the dominant vertical in the scene. I think right about there. But now the cars are a little bit too low in the frame, so I might just have to forego keeping a corner. Let's try a 3x2. I mean, I don't really need to keep the sky, but I like this clock and these cars. So we have a nice kind of triangle here, right? Between the clock and these two cars, because they have about the same luminance. And I never do black and white with John's photos generally because he likes color. So I will bend to that. Let me go to the local adjustments now. And I'm just going to work on the sky first and see if there's anything to be had here. I tighten the luma just a tad. And let's bring the, yeah, I knew there was something in there. And some clear view. Not much. It's a little bit clipped. So let's see if we can get some color back in. I guess that'll do. And some micro contrast. Okay, good. Now let me create a new mask. Use the AI tool. This one, oops, it missed a little bit. There we go. We'll get that. And I'm holding again the shift key. I want the cars to be a little bit brighter. So we're going to add some, I'm going to add some light in there. Maybe a little bit of clear view. Well, no, let's do micro contrast. Okay. It's a really bright scene, but I'm wondering if I can make this a little darker. Let me go back to the global. I just want to see what this looks like if I pull it down a couple of stops. Yeah. I'm just going to pull it down. Pull it down about one stop. And I'm going to go back to the cars. And just add a little bit more there. And let's do the same thing with this light. Maybe the clock too. Let's do a little bit there. Go back to the clock. Just add some warmth in there. And just a little bit of a glow. In here. And some warmth. A micro contrast. And then down here. A little bit right here. Okay. How about on this tree? Okay. All right, that's good. A little bit here. And there. Okay, the clock needs a little bit more. All right, let's work on the windows. Wow, each one of these edits are kind of taking a little extra time today. Whoops. I'm going to use the Shift key. And let's just add some clear view. Oops. Dang it. I messed up here. I'm going to move this in there. Okay. Let's push the highlights. Like so. All right, the last thing I want to do, well, maybe not the last thing. Let me get the brush. Again, I'm on a very low flow here. Let's just make the pavement a little darker. Like that. And I'm going to go back to the trees. This one, I kind of overdid it a little bit here. Okay, let me go back to the street. And I'm just going to cool this off a bit. All right, now let me go to the building itself. Maybe just use the AI tool. Oops. Okay. And select that. Yeah, that's fine. And select that. All right, let me put these all in mask 9 or 10. Yeah, I'm going to put these into mask 9. Okay. And let's do some micro contrast. Touch a clear view. And we'll push the highlights a bit. And midtones. Pull the black. Ooh, that's too much. All right. The lamp is a little bit soft. So we need some micro contrast on that. Maybe a clear view. Just a little bit less yellow. Same thing with the trees. Let me back off the warmth here. Let's just go to about 7,000, 8,000. Right about there. Okay. Let me go back to the building. The building just needs a little bit more pop. All right, I'm just going to call it there. Export. Oh, that's already done. So let's reset it. Set this as a reference. All right, again, so gosh, I'm feeling vertical today, but the image on the left, it's a little bit out of balance. The right side is very, very heavy, right, with this big piece here. And the most interesting thing is actually, I think this little corner here, this corner here is a shot by itself, but I didn't want to crop in that tight because, you know, I would lose so much detail. But now at least, like, you can see this sign here, you can kind of read it now over here. So I increased the contrast quite a bit on the building itself to bring out the textures of all the different stones. I could go in and really make the colors of each individual stone separate a little better, but just for the sake of time. But you can see, like up here, this stone's a little bit redder. This one's a little more taupe. This one's whiter. These individual colors are really interesting too. That said, I think this crop works really well for this image here. And then just adjusting the shadows and highlights, just throwing light in where I felt like it needed to be, like on the cars and these corners, on the trees. And then brightening up the windows. Because on a building, windows and doors and any unique architectural highlights like the clock here, I always try to amplify those things Okay, but overall, yeah, I like that edit there. I think that came out pretty nice. So let's go to the next one. And this one is from Shikabe. Looks like a Mallard. Exposure is a little dim, but that's okay. That's a good starting point. So let's apply a basic preset. And we're going to get rid of this tail feather here. I don't know if I can do it by crop. Yeah, why not? Then we'll just come in a little tighter over here. And now I have the eye on that rule of thirds line. Okay, just a little bit tighter, because I don't like this white line down in the bottom left, or reflection. And we got good balance, top and bottom, front to back. All right, very good. So now we have more of a portrait shot, right? So all we have to do is bring out the eyes, the beak, and the detail and textures in the feathers, and especially these colors. And then maybe temper the water just a bit so it's not quite as specular. So let me start with the water. So I'll select that with the AI tool. Let's give it a little bit of clear view and just pull it in just a bit. Maybe not that much. Right about there. And let's select the duck as a whole. So hit the shift key, there we go. And then let's just brighten him up just in a linear way. I'm going to add some micro contrast. Tiny bit of clear view. And let me get a brush. So submask and brush. Now I'm going to hit the Alt key because there's just the tiniest bit of halo around the head. Because AI didn't quite get the feathers. There we go. All right, let's do the eye. So I'm going to do a control point. And I think, Glenn, this is part of your question, right? You wanted to do control points for eyes, but then you wanted to save it as a preset. You know, I didn't respond to your email. I read it, and I tried a couple of things, and I didn't get it to work. So I'm going to keep working on that, and if there's a solution for you, Glenn, I'll email you, but right now I don't have one. Okay, the eye is just too dark to bring any color back. So we're just going to make it more specular and glossy. And we'll expand this out a bit. And let's work on the beak, maybe the AI tool, and do the same thing. We're going to make this kind of more specular and glossy. And let's give it a little vibrance. Okay, from here, let me go back to the duck and see. If I just do a general vibrancy, yeah, that works. I really want to make those colors pop. And then let's go back to Maybe just a little bit in the shadows. Right about there. Okay. Let me get the loop tool and just take a quick look at the feather detail. Maybe I can just do a little bit of extra sharpening down here. All right, perfect. So the image is still a little bit flat. I feel like maybe just a little bit of brushing. I'm just going to brush along some of the highlight areas. And I'm still at 10%. Let me just warm up those areas a bit. Then we'll just add a little bit of light. Okay. Just a touch here, a little bit more there and there. Make the brush smaller. Okay, and one more brush and we'll be done. But this time, I just want things to be just a tad darker. So let's pull. Oh, too much. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. Go back to the bright spots. All right, we'll call it there. Maybe a little vignette. So a vignette is easily done. You just use a control point, expand this out, turn your chroma and luma to 0, then invert it, and then you can just, I like to use the selective tone. Just to get a more natural looking vignette. All right. And then just overall, maybe just a little brighter overall. And a little bit more vibrancy, just on a global scale. Okay, and we're done. So I'm going to export that and check the progress. So you can see the last image took 9 seconds. This one will probably take about the same. 8 seconds. All right. So let's reset it. Set this as a reference. And we'll do a side by side. Whoops. All right, so a slight crop, right, to get rid of this feather and these tail feathers on both the ducks and make it more of a portrait shot and balance just sort of the space all the way around the duck in general. And then just sort of amplify or separate the lighting a little more, right, highlights and shadows. And I think that came out pretty good. Because over here the image is a little bit flat, right, because it's a cloudy day. And there is light coming down, so I just tried to make that stand out more, as if light was still a little bit peeking through the top. And if we do a slider, yeah, I think that came out fantastic. And we can kind of go in and look at some of the fine detail, right? I over sharpened a tiny bit, but you don't really see that unless I'm pixel peeping like this, right? So I'd probably go back and dial the sharpening back a little bit. But other than that, I think that's all I would do to that image. Okay, very good. And if I recall, Shakabe did send his version of this, so we can compare that real quick. So we'll make mine the reference image. And then here is Shakabe's edit. Wow, it's pretty close. Meaning the overall luminance is about the same, so we both brighten the image. And I like your crop better. I like the 16:9 crop. And the white border helps. So mine is more like a portrait. Yours is more of a landscapey shot. I don't know. They're both portraits, but I think, yeah, yours got the full body in. But the fact that the feathers are cut off anyway, that's why I didn't hesitate to cut off a little more and crop in. But yeah, it looks good. Looks good. All right. Let me go to the chat section real quick and see if there were any questions or comments. So these are the mountain goats. Okay, at the Glacier National Park. Nice. And no email yet. Yeah, I'm still working on that. And Anthony is here. Hey, Anthony, do you think DxO Photolab 10 will come out later this year? I would love to see DxO add stitching capabilities to this program. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. It seems like they're making a new version every year. You know, I haven't heard anything about doing stitching, because that would require something it really doesn't do now, is layering, right? Because you have to layer the images to kind of stitch them. You know, masking is a sort of like a layering, but it's not the same thing as layering pixels, because masking is layering edits. It's not really layering pixels. So they'd have to add a major component to Photolab 10. And it's typical. Even like I use Photoshop to do panorama stitching, for example. It doesn't do as good a job as a free program I got, to be in all fairness. So even if Photolab added stitching, I question how good it's going to be compared to what I use now, the free one that I use now, which is the Gigapana Pro. It's free. It's called AGP, Gigapana Pro. You know, Photoshop doesn't do as good a job. Luminar definitely doesn't. And I haven't tried the new Canva, you know, but I have the older version. I forget what it's called. That was really terrible at it. But the new Canva I hear is pretty good. I haven't tried it yet, though. And it's free, right? So if they add it to DxO Photolab, I can kind of take it or leave it, because I'm already using something that works really, really well and better than the paid apps that I have. But if they do a good job and they include it, yeah, definitely I would look forward to that. What I'd like to see is more fine-tuning to some of the editing tools. Like, I'd like to be able to adjust white balance on a JPEG or a TIFF file, right? Right now, you can adjust the white balance, but you can only shift it warm or cool. With the regular RAW file, you can do the warm and cool, but you can also shift the tint for the white balance, and it's much more precise. Spinning up SSDs don't spin. Are you still? Yes, I use hard drives. A lot of my photos are on hard drives. The only thing I keep on my SSD are the current year's photos. So I started over with January, and some projects, but everything else I offload to external hard drives. Nice crop on the rams. Oh, thank you, Heather. And do you think square crop might have worked? Keep more of the mountain face. Definitely would have worked, but I feel like I might have lost some of the height, right? The height and depth that the vertical gave me. So that's why I didn't even consider the square crop, because square crops are great for when there's a single subject, right? Portraits, animals, bugs, you know, flowers. But landscapes, I try to keep some sort of oblong aspect ratio. And Jeff is here. Good to see you. And hey, Rob, that's an old wooden mill of offices converted to luxury apartments. Oh, okay. And oh my goodness, I almost missed this. Thank you so much, Peter. I really appreciate the support. Yeah, and you know, I have memberships for 99 cents a month, which basically just supports my weekly live streams, including this one. So I really appreciate that. John, amazing how there always seems to be demand for luxury. I know, it's crazy. Even here, you know, you can get a little matchbox of an apartment for like $2,000 to $3,000 a month. And I'm talking like 500 square feet, like one bedroom, a kitchenette. It's insane, you know, nearby here. That's not totally, you know, slum. Okay, looks like I caught up to everything. Seems like a cool place. Yeah, that would be a cool place. You know, I can get apartments down the street from my house that are, you know, I live in a very poor neighborhood. You know, I think the rent there is under 2,000, just barely. But those apartments have been around since the 1940s, you know, with, you know, remodeling done here and there. But anyway, if you want to live in a nice area, like about just 5 miles away from here, 5 to 10 miles, you know, the rent goes up significantly. Okay. Let's get to the next one. So we have something from Paul. Oh, a little bitty owl. That's cool. So it's a bit overexposed. Well, let's do a basic preset. Let's see how much we can recover. So you dialed in 2/3 here. I don't know if that was on purpose or by mistake. It looks like you're trying to capture maybe them taking off or landing, because you're at like 1/2000th of a second at ISO 2000. So we definitely have some limited dynamic range to recover. But let's just do an overall pull. Okay, there's still some detail in there. So we can get most of that back, I think. But let's just pull this back about a full stop just to start. And then let's do some local adjustments. Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. So we have an owl. So what I did originally was I just pulled the exposure way back like this to see if I could recover some of the highlights in there. And it looks like I can. So I'm going to just dial back about one stop. So this looks like about the right exposure overall. So all I have to do is just do some local adjustments. I'll use control points and just click in here. And let's dial in the luma just a little bit tighter and then pull the highlights in. And again, just maintaining that straight line. Let's do one there and here on the face, on the head. I can make these a little tighter. Maybe on this guy's glove, arm. All right, that's a little better. I don't want to pull it in too much because then you can start to see some of the, it gets a little mushy. It's kind of like when you try to push shadows too much, it gets grainy. If you try to pull highlights too much, it can get kind of mushy looking. I can offset that a little bit with some micro contrast maybe. And let's try some clear view. Okay, I think that works. This highlight is gone down here. I don't think we can do anything about that. Maybe I can brush in a little bit of feather there, but we're good. All right, let's work on the eyes. Again, just a simple control point. And I see you, Heather, you sent a picture, and I'll go and grab that at the end. Let's just push the shadows a bit. Midtones, highlight. Ooh, we don't need highlights. I'll add some clear view and a tiny bit of micro contrast. Okay, let me see. Good, good. Let me just look at a square crop. Oops. The original was fine, 4x3. Just need to come in a bit tighter. We'll put that eye right on the third. Then let's darken the background. Maybe the AI tool will do that. Yeah. Like so. Let's give it a little warmth, actually. Just about 500 Kelvin. All right, the last thing, well, not the last thing. Let's add a quick vignette. Here. Like so. I'm going to see if I can fix this clip the wing part here. So I'm going to do a clone. And let's use this. Now I can reshape this because if you look at it, it looks stupid like that, right? Let me feather it more. And I'm going to click the reshape tool here. And just get it to be more in line. It's not feathering nicely though. What's up with that? Let me get a brush. Let me try the eraser tool. No. I don't know why that's not flowing in very smoothly. Okay. And the eraser tool, see if I can just touch a little bit on the edges. Okay, not bad, not bad. Use a bigger one. Oh. You know, the feathering is just not working right. There's just too much contrast. So I'm going to back off the opacity a bit. And we'll go around. I'm just trying too hard. Whoops, whoops. All right, not a great job, but if I pick something up here. Okay, good enough. Let's add just some clear view overall. Some more micro contrast. And we'll call it. But there's just too many clipped highlights. Too many. This one being the biggest one, so I just wanted to try to fix that, but okay. Okay, so here's my edit on the left. There's the original on the right. Slight crop. Tried to save the highlights as much as I can. But I think that came out okay. So, not bad. But definitely, yeah, definitely the highlights got clipped. All right, let's do the next one. And have one here from Chris. Ooh, this is nice. Let's do a basic preset. And I'm going to just do black and white. So I'm just going to convert to that right up front. And question is the lighting. So let me just look at the black and white presets real quick. Let's do black and white strong. I don't think I need to do much. And then maybe just a little bit of a crop. Okay, let me go back here. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of a local adjustment. So we'll select this bridge. I don't need this one. Okay. I'm going to erase from here. All right, let me check the loop tool. Okay, there's a little bit of an eye there. Maybe we can just give one little accent here. Oops, new mask. Brush, all right. Rather than just a full-on silhouette, just because I got light hitting the bridge or dock, whatever he's standing on, I thought I'd just add a little bit of a catch light. All right, let's export that. We'll get rid of most of that grain. Grain is kind of subjective. I think this picture will work either way, with or without the grain. Okay. All right, so that was pretty straightforward. Just a slight crop. Again, I just wanted this corner to go here. So that's what I did down here. And then just, there's a natural vignette in the image. So I just exaggerated that by pushing the highlights and pulling the shadows a bit. But yeah, that's a nice shot. Okay. Minimalist, right? Okay, let's go here. Okay, looks like Vulture. Ooh, let's apply a basic preset. This is a cool shot. I'm gonna use the AI tool. I'm gonna hit the Shift key and just kind of grab everything. Just pull that way down. Okay, let's do a new mask. And I'm thinking, this is something I haven't done. I'm just conceptualizing how to do this. Use a control point, put it here, and turn the chroma and luma down. And then just brighten. Okay. And then I'm going to do another submask. Select this bird. Let me see. And punch it. Okay, that's kind of what I wanted. There we go. And then let's just warm that up a bit. Or cool it. No, we'll leave it the way it is. All right. This rock in the corner, just get in there. All right, let's work on the vulture itself. So we'll make a new mask. Hit the eye. A little bit tighter on the chroma this time. Push that up. Some clear view. Okay. Let's do another one. I'm going to use the AI tool here. Select the beak. Just give it some vibrancy and saturation. And then let's globally, I'm going to maybe do some vibrancy. Okay. So what was this mask? This mask was, it's a little bit too dark. Right about there. That's fine. Okay, I'm going to touch a little bit on the highlights. A bit tighter on the luminosity. And let me go in here. Just want some more, just a little bit of extra sharpening there. Okay, let me look at the loop tool. Yeah, looks good, looks good. Still good here. Okay, the vignette is a little bit too heavy-handed, so let me go back here. Okay. Okay, I think I'll call it there. Maybe a slight crop and tilt. Oh, I should have tilted this first. It's a little bit off. Let me go back to that vignette. Hmm. Okay, I'm going to call it there. Okay, so yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Of course, Paul, I think this is Paul's. Yeah, perfect. Mainly it was just a saturation on the bird and then just creating kind of a vignette in the background. But I didn't want the vignette to touch the bird at all, so that's why I made the sort of that hole puncher type masking. And then I softened it up by pulling the micro contrast back. But if we can do a slider and just see if we're able to pull any details back in. Yeah, that looks great. Because if I do a split view, you know, we brought a lot of the detail back, I think. You can almost see the iris and the little bitty lines in there as well. Okay. Nice shot. All right, let's go to this one. We still got 3 left. All right, I need to pick up the pace here a little bit. Let's apply basic preset. We definitely want to straighten the horizon just a bit. And okay, and then select the water. Yeah, that's fine. Let's just pull this in a bit. Okay, let me go back over here. And let's do a quick 16 by 9. And we'll center that. No, I kind of like the whole thing. Okay. I didn't mask that too well. So it's this one. Let's get rid of that. Just let me use a bigger, see if I can feather that just a bit more. There we go. All right. And let's do a control line just right here. Make the clear view. Just a touch. Just a touch cooler. Okay, and then just a little bit on the bird itself. Let's make it a little warmer here. little more vibrancy. And then a touch on the eyes. Oops. A little bit of green. Okay. Just need a little bit less there. All right. I'll call it there. Let me look at the loop tool. Just see if there's any other detail I can bring in. I did my basic preset, right? Yeah, so a little bit of unsharp mask. And just a little bit of vibrancy overall. And some warmth. And a touch of clear view across and some micro contrast. And let me go back to the water. It's a little bit too cool. So I'll just back this off. Okay, a little bit too much here. All right, now I'm done. Okay. This one's from Surge. Don't normally get wildlife from Surge. Usually is landscapes and forest. All right. Let's compare. Okay, so obviously the original on the right, horizon shift was kind of the biggest obvious change. It's not tilted quite as much. And then a lot of contrast. I wanted to bring out the reflection here and basically bring out the speculars by darkening the background a bit. So now the speculars stand out more. And I don't know how much detail we were able to save here, but let's, well, we'll just do a quick slider shot. But yeah, see the contrast on the speculars? That's a lot better now. And then of course the bird itself. So let's do a split view. On the bird. Yeah, much better. Okay. A little bit of haloing here that I need to fix, but other than that, I think it looks pretty good. Definitely got rid of some of the chroma noise down here in the shadow areas. And a tiny bit of over sharpening here. But other than that, I think that came out really good. And the 16:9 crop, I think, works. All right, nice shot. Let's see, this one. It's from Larry. So what is that down there? Those are ducks, little mallards. That's cool. Gosh, you're pretty far away. So let's apply basic preset. Again, I think a vertical will work on this one. I like this side here with the grass and the ducks. I don't even know if I need the sky. Yeah. Now the water's kind of cut off. But then these sticks here, I like that. I like the cactus over here and here. I think I'll go with this. Okay, it's just a tiny bit overexposed for my taste. So I'm gonna just, let's see. Let's go start there. Some clear view and contrast. And sky, a little tighter on the luma. Okay, micro contrast. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Cool that off a bit. Since I took some light away, I'm just going to cool off the scene a little bit overall. Then we'll just brush in some warmth. So flow, let me drop the opacity down to half. And I'm just gonna hit a couple places and then do the rest. All right, let's put the opacity back up to 100. Okay, good. Sorry, I'm getting silent. I'm running out of time here. I just have something I have to do a little bit later. A little bit too much there. Okay, put it back. Okay. Almost there. All right, I'm going to call it there. And set. Okay, so here's the original. There's my edit. It just was really, really bright. So it's kind of washing out all of the textures that I think are in this rock side. So I think this is maybe still a tad too dark. I could just bump the exposure a tiny bit. But you can kind of see where I was going in trying to bring out the textures. And I just, light painted with a brush overall. And it was important to kind of cool off the image when I did a sort of this global shift to make it darker, and then brush in the warmth back into the places that I wanted to be a little bit warm. And I think this looks pretty good, because in this image here, the shadow areas just are not cool enough or dark enough. So that's all I tried to do, was separate the highlights and the shadows. And I think the vertical crop works a little better, because the water just kind of goes off to the edge of the frame with these branches, so that kind of was distracting me. So is this tree right here. So hence, that's why I had to crop just right in between this distraction and this distraction. Okay, let's go to the next one. And then I need to check let's edit this. So we have a common grackle here. So I'll just do a basic preset, and it's in the rain. That's cool. Definitely need to straighten it a bit. I'm just using that pole or perch that he's standing on as a guide. Just eyeball it. Okay. Did I do the preset yet? Yep. And then let's just AI select the background, and we'll just pull that in a bit. Okay, let's brighten up everything a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go back here. I don't know if I need to cool off the background or not. It's already kind of cool. Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit of cooling. What if I went warmer? No, that looks ridiculous. So let's just, oops, let's just back off a couple hundred Kelvin. All right, now let's select the bird. Well, maybe not. Maybe what I'm thinking is just saturation. Let's just do a global vibrancy. A bit of saturation. A little bit more brightening. Okay. And let me just do a square crop. And I'm going to center this. Come in just a little bit off the top. All right, let's try to bring the eyes in a bit. We're not going to get any color, but I just want to just push the speculars a bit. So let's move up a little bit. Okay. And then I like the browns and the purple and blues. Let's separate those a bit. So I'm going to go back to the color. Let me just drop something down here on this brown. It's kind of an orange. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good. A little bit brighter. And then let's do the same thing for these purplish blue. All right, and then the bird needs some micro contrast. So we'll just AI select the bird. Like that. Okay, let's add a vignette. See if I can get that rain to show a little better. Not really. Okay, it's not bad. Okay, and then just maybe a little warmth overall. Okay. All set. I didn't really check the details. Let me just check. I can do a little bit more there. So which one was my bird? This one, right? So I can selectively apply the lens sharpening just to that mask. Let me do a little bit of let me do some sharpness. I tend to get carried away with sharpening sometimes, but okay, good enough. Now we can export that. Okay, so here's the original on the right. Just all I did was a square crop and vignette, and then just exaggerated the colors. I mean, this is a little bit surreal, you know, because in person, like this is more realistic, right? This looks really how you would see it, maybe just a little bit underexposed. But, you know, just like people with animals, you want to make them look 10 times better in a picture than they do in real life, right? So I think that came out pretty good. And then as far as the fine details go, like I said, I tend to overdo it sometimes, but you can see we brought back some really nice details, I think. It's a little bit too crispy when we punch in this close, but overall it looks really good, I think. Okay, I think that was the last one in this group. So let me go over to, where's my let's see what's come in. Sometimes you guys like to send in your edits. Oh wow, a bunch of stuff came in. Okay, I'm gonna do Heather's, but I'm not gonna be able to do the rest of these. I'm so sorry, I have to get going. Let me download Paul's. And let's do Peter. Since Peter's a new member, I'll do that one. And Heather's always been, you guys have always been there for me. I really appreciate it. What is this? This one is, oops. I'm downloading these. Give me a second here. What is this one? This one is, there's also one here from Tomorrow's Sphere. I can do these. They'll just be a little bit quick. I'm not going to jibber jabber as much. I'm just going to edit. And then Chris sent his edit in, so. Okay, I think I got them all. All right, so this is mine. We'll set that as, wait. This is my edit, so we'll set that as a reference. Oops. I made a virtual copy. Images reference. There we go. You know, it's kind of crazy how similar Paul and I edit images. They're really close. I did a little more saturation and a little brighter background, but we had the same idea of just basically crushing the background really dark. So, and detail-wise, I think, you know, I did a little more here. You must have resized your image because the resolution's a little bit lower on yours. Definitely. Let me see what your resolution size is. I feel like yours is slightly lower res. So 35 by 46, and mine is, yeah, mine has more resolution. You downsize yours a little bit. Because mine is 14 megapixels, yours is 13. So about almost a 2 megapixel difference between the two. Okay. Oh, and you got the blue tag out. down here. Huh, I didn't do that. But cool, okay. And then there was another edit here. So here's mine. All right, very nice. I was thinking the same thing, like I could go a little bit lower contrast on the edit. Whoops. Sort of like was done over here. My crop is a little tighter. Like I just kept this line down here. You have the same line, but it's on the bottom part. But yeah, either way, you know, if you want more contrast, that's what I did, or a lower contrast image. I was debating the two. I think the lower contrast is nicer though. Yeah, very nice. Okay. And I don't think there was any other comparisons here. Okay, so let's go over here. I think this one's next. Okay, looks like an old Rolls Royce. Nice. Let's apply basic preset. And definitely need some perspective or horizon correction. Just a little bit there. And let's center this. So I'm just using this little box here, centering it with the car center. Maybe a square. Okay, and let's pull the exposure down. I wonder, maybe about there. That's pretty heavy. Use the rectangle. Pointer. If I can get, yeah, let's do that. Okay. Sorry, I'm not talking much, but I'm here. I'm working. I'm basically doing the same thing I've been doing for the last 2 hours. Okay. All right. A little brighter. There's a green tint in there, so let's just desaturate just the headlights. Okay. And where's the grill? This one, right? No. This one. This has the same kind of greenish in there. I understand that's just a reflection of the trees, but just want to make sure. And go back to the yeah, we should be some red in there. This looks like it's brass. So we will amplify that a bit. Okay, let's select this and do this a little bit. Okay. All right. I don't know. Okay. A little bit of the steering wheel. Gosh, cars take a long time. It's like detailing a car in real life. You know, you get out there with a little toothbrush and you scrub the little tiny places in between the cracks and stuff. Editing is very similar in that way. Let me see if I can get I don't know. Let me see where I'm at. Okay, just a little bit in the shadow areas and we'll be done. Let's try control line. And I'm gonna just pick the darkest area, tighten up the luma and the chroma. Okay, and then we'll just push this up a bit. Okay, we're almost there. So let's just do this and some overall clear view. Definitely some micro contrast in there. Maybe another push to the shadows. All right, I think that'll do for now. So let's export that. Okay, so I think the square crop works. And then all we had to do is find little accents of color like this red and this kind of brass down here. And then get rid of some of the green tint that was reflecting back in the headlights and in the grill. Oh, I could have done that for the windshield too. Because the green tint just took away from the color of the car overall. But yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So, nice, really beautiful car. All right, let's see what's next here. And thank you again, Peter, for your support. Okay, this looks like the next one. This one here. So I think we were going for a Starburst, right? Wow, an MX1. What a neat little camera. Let's so we're vertical. We just need to do a little more vertical. So let me apply a basic preset. Let's see if I forgot to check if I downloaded the optics modules for all of these. I did not. Let me download that. I didn't do it for this one either. All right. Next. Okay, perfect. All right. Now we can crop. I think all we need is maybe this. A little bit tighter. Maybe a slight horizon tilt. And I'm just putting the sun right into the rule of thirds. Let's do a control line for the sky. And just clear view that and pull the highlights down. Maybe even warm it up a bit. No, let's not do that. We can do the same thing with the bottom. Give it some texture, definitely some warmth though. Okay. Then let's fix the tree. Just a little bit there. Some micro contrast. Oh, this is a 10% brush. All right. I just want to see the tree a little bit more. A little bit of warmth. Okay, and I'm going to see if I can bring out the speculars a little bit on this sun. Not too much. I think that's the best I'm going to be able to do there. Okay, so let's export that. Whoops. Oh, I bet Nick Collection has a cool, let me check something here. We have these LUTs in here. I wonder if any of these LUTs. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Whoops. Yeah, that works. All right, now let's export it. And these LUTs are included with Photolab. You know, I didn't download them as a, you know, preset pack or anything. They just come with it. Okay, so here's the original on the right. So it looks like you were taking this out the front of your back door or out of a window, most likely from the back door or porch. So just a little tighter crop so we don't see the overhang here. And then watching the corner here to lead us into the frame up to here. And then a simple rule of thirds and a little horizon straightening. And then of course the LUT to give it sort of that cinematic teal and orange kind of look to it. But I did a lot of that with the, you know, with the editing directly. And then applying the LUT just kind of amplified that. But that's cool. Really cool little camera. It's neat to see that in the editing. All right, let's see who's next here. It looks like finally Heather. And then there's one more down here. All right. Let's see. Let's apply a preset. This one looks like high ISO. Yeah, 8,000. Because I can see some noise right away without pixel peeping it. Let's try a 16 by 9. I don't like the back being cut off though. This is very similar to the duck picture. Maybe I'm gonna just follow my instincts here and stay with the 4x3. Let's do 5x4. Okay. And let's hit the eyes first. I did my preset right, okay. So add a little bit there, some clear view, some micro contrast. Maybe spread it out a bit. Okay. So eyes, nose, paws, right? That's how I approach animals. So we'll do the nose next. I think it just needs some clear view, some micro. And the paws, he doesn't really have any claws or anything, so maybe not. Maybe fix this twig though. Let's see if we can get away with, let's see what repair does. Oh, let's take a little bit from here. Rotate that. Okay. And then a little bit tighter. Do this in very small steps. Okay, good. And also the ears. So the ears, another control point. Just add a little bit of brightening there. And let's select the background, the AI tool. Doesn't look like I can get it all at once. Whoops. So we'll select the dog or wolf and invert it. And then just pull the exposure back a bit. Maybe cool it off a little. Just 200. Okay. Now let's go over here to the global side and just brighten it all back up again a little bit. Okay. Where's the eyes here? Need a little bit more action in the eyes. Just a little bit of warmth and some vibrancy. It's a little bit too bright. I don't want to have his eyes glowing, right? Okay. All right, then just some very, very light brushing. So let's just brush a little bit here. A bit here. Same thing down here. Just pull this in. A little bit in here. And let's add a vignette. Let's brighten this up some more. Let me go back to this brush. Some micro contrast in there. A little extra sharpening. All right, let's pixel peep a little bit with the loop tool. And I think we're good. I don't think I need to do... Let's just add some detail slider. Just a hair on the sharpening. Okay. Go back to that brush. And let's just pull the saturation back a little bit. Okay. Let me select the dog or this wolf. I feel like I need to just give him a hair more light, and color. And a little bit of warmth. Okay. Oh, too much warmth. Right there. Let's export that. Okay, so there's my edit on the left. And this is the original. So I think the crop works because I just don't like it when things are kind of cut off, just like on the duck. Same for this wolf. And then, of course, bringing out the eyes. I may have overdone it on the eyes. I should back that off a little bit, but I think that came out pretty nice. And then minimizing the background because it's so bright, right? And getting rid of this little stick. So let's just pixel peep at what we could do with an ISO 8000 image. So we're going to lose detail, but I think it came out pretty nice. But yeah, he was just way too dark and the background was so bright. See the difference of the background here versus mine over here? So I brightened the wolf, but not the background. I darkened the background. That was the main thing. And I think that came out pretty nice. And then a little light painting, just adding some shadows down in here. And then color. So yeah, don't do the eyes this bright. Or I would go back and just, you know, not add so much brightness. But yeah, I think that came out pretty good otherwise. All right, let's see. I think there's one more here from Hickey. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Oh, car window shot looks like. Either that or you got your finger in the frame. This is what lens is this? 12 millimeter, that's why. Okay, so let's apply basic preset. Let me just make sure I got the the optics module's there. What is this in the background? Oh, these are houses or something. Wow, this is a really beautiful scene. Really well captured. I just wish we could see the trunk of the tree on this side to balance a little bit. So what I might do is just and a little bit of horizon. Okay. Something like that. And let's just see if I can temper the highlights just a little bit. And the image needs to be a little bit warmer. Okay. I wonder if I go down here to the yellows and oranges and just push the luminance there and go to the blues. Let me spread that out a bit. And let's pull the luminance down. It's not making much difference. So we'll have to do it with a brush. Let's just use a very light brush again. and just paint in everywhere I see this light. Oops, didn't mean to do that. My God, you must have been so excited when you saw this scene. This is really amazing. Okay, so let me just try a little contrast first. And some clear view, and then we'll push the highlights. Add a little warmth. Okay. Oops. All right, now let's make a new brush, and this time we'll subtract a little bit of light. Use it a little smaller. That's a little bit too dark. This needs more light. Okay. I'm just using a very small brush here, just to kind of kiss some of the highlights. Shadow brush. I'm going to drop that down a bit more on the opacity. And let me pull the white balance back a tiny bit. Okay, that's not bad. Just a little bit more warmth. Saturate that a bit. Where's my... Just a little bit in here. Okay, I think that's it. So let's export that. Oof. All right, very nice. You know, the crop is very subjective here. I really like, it'd have been nice if I could have kept more of the trees in here, but I'm missing the tree trunk. I would have liked to have the tree trunk of this one too to kind of frame it a little more. So instead, I just let this side frame. I was debating the cropping the entire thing, but this is sticking out a little bit too far. Because it'd been nice just to get this one side framing the town. But the picture almost straight out of camera looks really good, right? So I think you know, I overdid it as usual, but all right, super, very nice, guys. Thank you so much for letting me edit your pictures. Hopefully you picked up a few ideas and tips. I did a couple of new things today, sort of like on the Vulture shot where I created that vignette behind the bird. Rather than just creating a general vignette to the entire image, I created a vignette behind the Vulture on Paul's image. So that was kind of new today, but it's not too dissimilar from when I've done edits of blurring the background. But instead of blurring the background, this time I just did a vignette for the background. And then the LUT, I don't use the LUTs very often. I've only done that maybe one other time in a stream, so that was kind of new. And might have been one other thing I'm trying to recall that I did. But a couple of new techniques today, and then the general overall workflow. Hopefully you get the idea of the things I like to emphasize in an image, you know, with animals, with architecture. You know, animals is always eyes, nose, beak, claws, ears. And architecture, it's always the texture and the stonework and bricks or wood. Windows and doors are always important. And then also doing accents, looking for accents in the image, like in the very first one with the mountain goats. We're a nice accent to the image to give it scale overall. And on the car image of the Rolls Royce, the accents were the red and the brass, right, in the front of the grille. So lots of little things. Hopefully you picked up a couple ideas. I always enjoy editing your photos. And thank you again, Peter, for your support, and all the other members of my channel, and for the coffees that you guys get me. It's greatly appreciated. I enjoy doing these with you, and I'm very grateful you send your images and trust me with them. So I'll be back this Sunday for the 8th annual Micro Four Thirds meetup. I'll have some familiar guests there this week, and then next week I'll have some new guests, which I'm sure you know them as well, but they've never been on my channel before. So that'll be great. And Peter says, I notice you do not use preform crops. I'm not sure what you mean by preform. Sorry, I just saw your question pop up. So let's go to an image like this one. And you know, when I crop, I assume you're talking about cropping like this, right? And I just select one of the presets usually. I rarely use like, oops, I'm sorry, you can't see the screen. But yeah, I'm over here in the crop section. I usually select one of these, 1:1, 5:4. I rarely do like free aspect ratios where I just do whatever makes whatever I want, you know. I like to use preset. Yeah, freeform. Okay. Yeah, I rarely use freeform because uh, these are here and these are fine. I did create some custom crops like 13:19. That's because that's the size of my paper for my printer. And 16:7, 17:11, 65, you know, these are common panoramic crops that you know, aren't preset. But freeform, yeah. Freeform is, I don't know, it's just, I don't have to think as much if I use a preset aspect ratio, I guess. Also, with the preset aspect ratios like 1:1 and 8:10, you know, these are crops you can use that if you decide to print, you can usually find a frame that'll fit it perfectly. So that's why I created the 13:19 crop, because I want to be able to frame those pictures perfectly to the paper and or to a frame. 1:1, 8:10, you know, which is what, 5:4. You know, these are all very common crops for buying a off-the-shelf frame. Now, if you want to get custom framing and stuff, then yeah, freeform makes a lot more sense. But yeah, I don't use freeform very often for all of those reasons. But okay, we'll call it here. So I hope to see you guys on Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the 8th Annual Micro Four Thirds Meetup. And thanks again for editing. I'm just looking. Peter says, thought you may have got the look you wanted on the last edit. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think on all of these, I got exactly what I wanted out of them. So, but that's it. You guys have a great day. I have to run. Have a good day, good life, good week. Eat healthy, exercise, all the usual stuff. I'm going to see you guys.